So Tom, we're here in the Unplugged Woodshop. Tell me about how you got started in woodworking.
So, growing up on the east coast of Canada, most people, my dad was a firefighter and he would work 3 days on, 3 days off. The 3 days off, he was always framing houses and building decks, installing doors and windows. So originally I've got to start with him, and I grew up knowing how to saw board or hammer and nail. But in my adult life, after high school, became a professional musician in Canada and used to tour from Newfoundland to BC over and over. And as most musicians go in Canada, we all have day jobs, and mine, I got interested in working with set design.
And how did the Unplugged Woodshop come to life?
The Unplugged Woodshop was my shop in my basement, and that happened after I left Cape Breton. I used to build boats in Cape Breton, so fast forward a bit from my set design years, started building wooden boats in Cape Breton, and then I started blogging about building wooden boats in Cape Breton, and that was in around 2004. When I left Cape Breton, I came to Toronto. I didn't know what kind of real estate I was going to have at that point, and I thought, well, I'm just going to leave all my power tools in the boat shop in Cape Breton, come to Toronto with my hand tools and try to make a go of it. And in my mind, I thought, well, people have been doing this for thousands of years, and all these beautiful pieces of furniture that I would see from a museum to an antique store was all made by hand. And I realized, well, maybe I can come to Toronto, maybe the population is enough here that it could sustain doing things by hand, and the Unplugged Woodshop was in the basement. This version of it is fairly new, and we just started in January. So this is now, through working with hand tools, and in 2006 I signed a publishing deal with Popular Woodworking Books in Ohio and wrote my first book, and just luck of the draw, I guess, in publishing deals, it became their best-selling woodworking book. And by 2011 I signed another publishing deal with the Totten Press to write my second book, which was called The Unplugged Woodshop, and started getting invitations to teach hand tool woodworking literally all over the planet, from Australia to Germany, through the States to England, and all over Canada. So everywhere I'd go, I'd be working these small hand tool schools, and people would say, oh, you must have a school in Toronto, or there must be a school in Toronto. And I kept answering, no, actually I just do little private classes in my basement here in Toronto. And they would say, well, you should have a school in Toronto. There's no woodworking school. And there wasn't really a woodworking school in Toronto, so we decided this year to do something about that.
So what all happens here?
Everything from, we just finished an introduction hand class to people that might never have picked up a hand tool, to teaching them fundamental skills from sawing a board, how to buy lumber, how to identify wood, to advanced classes. Last week we did a 1 week course, a 5-day course about how to build a hand plane. So we're actually building the tools that we use in the process of building furniture by hand. And in the coming months my goal is to September to offer more longer term a curriculum for people who have been contacting me, mostly international students who want to come to Toronto, who say, well, I can't really justify coming just for a week. Can you give me something more like 8 to 10 to 12 week courses? So we're going to develop the curriculum with that in mind.
Cool. And you've developed your own hand tools, right?
That's correct, yeah. It is necessity is the mother of invention. And working with hand saws and resawing in particular, veneer types of saw cuts are very difficult, and in a hand tool shop we experience the same thing as you do in a power tool shop. So there has been some tools that I've developed to make the process a little more foolproof, I suppose, for lack of a better word.
So this is one of your tools here you've got, right?
This is called a Kerfing Plane, and the Kerfing Plane is almost like a set of training wheels for a handsaw. And what you do is you basically create a kerf in a board with the idea that another saw will follow this kerf that you create. So it makes sawing, I could saw up to very, very thin veneers with this saw by using this. And it just kind of came to me out of necessity, as I mentioned. And lo and behold, I couldn't find anything like it in history, and we've found things sort of like it, but I don't think they were designed for the same purpose. So it's kind of a unique tool. And I've made a few of them. I've made probably a dozen now, different slightly variations, and they keep evolving and changing a little bit. And we're in talks now with larger manufacturers about maybe adopting this into their own more mass-produced line of tools as well, which is kind of exciting.
Now, this is also a makerspace, right? Tell me about the makerspace aspect.
Sure. Being in the city here, I would say probably 80% of the students that come to find us here will leave with saying, well, I live in a condo downtown, I love working with my hands, and I have no place to do it. So asking me, do I know of anywhere that they could just rent a bench? And then from the business side of our model here, having a shop and a school and all this stuff at 5 o'clock when we go home at night, having a bunch of empty benches, not making money. So it's so we could answer or solve those two things by renting our benches out in the evenings to people who are looking for space, and plus obviously helping out turn the lights on here.
So let's talk about renting and courses and stuff. What's the cost of renting a bench? What's the cost of taking courses?
Courses range from about $100 for a 2-hour class, and benches are $15 for a bench for an hour to rent on your own time, up to, and if you want a set of tools, it's $25 an hour. But we're going to introduce kind of like a membership. So people that say, I have a project in mind, I would like to be here. The Makerspace, I think we have up to 15 hours a week available for people, which could get costly, even though $15 an hour sounds inexpensive by an hourly rate to rent something. That can add up. So we want to develop a program where people who know they want to utilize the space for a month, they can buy a monthly membership, and we can give them a much better price that way.
So much like an actual tech makerspace in town.
Very similar to that, yeah. In fact, that's the model that we're using and stuff, yeah. That or a gym membership.
So one last question, Tom. What is it about wood and working with wood that excites you and has kept you interested in over the years?
Working with it is such an I don't even like the term organic, it's such overused, but it's never the same twice. Although the process is very similar regardless of what I'm building, it's always new, it's always a creative process. And being a musician and a writer, that creative process comes through when you're dimensioning wood, when you're flattening a board, and just the possibilities. You know, you can do this, it's a lifetime of learning. It's always, you can do this every day, and I'll do this every day for the rest of my life. But when I'm building my own box for that final send-off, I'll still be learning, right? It really is an exciting thing, and trees are just always changing. Every piece of wood you cut into, there's a new opportunity inside that is different to the last. So it's always changing and evolving.
Thank you very much.